We're steamrolling toward the weekend in a Sunday playoff game. The question at hand, what is your biggest concern about the Commanders going into the postseason?
The way this offense has not operated, non-Jaden Daniels division. Again, we saw Marcus Mariota in the second half of that Dallas game.
Minus the entire last game.
I talked about this yesterday, and I know we're sitting here giving our opinions, and that's the gig. We're doing it for a long time. I'm not doing a very good job talking about Sunday because I still don't understand it. I still don't know what to make of it. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. I don't know how they felt. I don't know what the expectation was. I don't know what the goal was. I know things sort of morphed and changed throughout the game where all of a sudden Cliff Kingsbury is high-fiving him, slapping hands like they just invented fire or something at the very end. I don't know. But the bigger sample here over the last handful of weeks is the running game is broken. I mean, really broken. Hasn't mattered who the opponent is. Good defense, bad defense. Saints are a disgrace. The Falcons are terrible against the run. Dallas is a joke against the run. Shoved it on Washington, talking about the running backs and the regular conventional run game.
Yeah, going back to 4 games ago against the Saints, 24 carries from running backs for 71 yards. The Eagles game, 15 carries from running backs for 32 yards. The Falcons game, this was the best that it got because they had a couple that they ripped off, but 19 for 81. And then the Cowboys game this past weekend, 8 carries for 22 yards, which was 5 for 10 from B-Rob and 3 for 12 from Eckler. So if you add all that up over a month, it's 66 rushing attempts, which is right at about 16 per game, for 206 yards, which is 3.1 yards per carry. And that's with a backwards pass that gets called a run for 20 yards. But over that time, Brian Robinson, if you take the 20-yard pass / run out to him, it's a 2.8 yard per carry month for him, which is, frankly, the least effective they've been handing him the football in a couple of years.
Yeah, the outliers, that Tennessee Titans game where they did whatever they wanted against a pretty good defensive front, we're going, okay, maybe they found something.
That was 5 games ago.
Post, that 3-game stretch, post Pittsburgh, 60 yards rushing as a team. Eagles game, 93 yards rushing as a team. And, then against Dallas, again, they struggled running the ball there. Daniels ran it some to kind of buoy those totals. You go, okay, maybe they found something again. Thank goodness. But it was right back into the you-know-what against New Orleans. They were terrible. And then Philly, Atlanta, Dallas again, as we kind of alluded to. So that, to me, goes to the larger point about their offense, which is the reason they were so prolific through the first half of the season, regardless of the opponent, going to the Cardinals, the Bengals, even the Ravens to a degree, that game, Carolina when they're blowing people out. First down, everything's at your disposal. If you're Cliff Kingsbury looking at that laminated sheet, I could run it for 6. I could throw a little hitch for 7. I could flip it to Zacchaeus on a bubble. I could run an end around and down me brown. Whatever I want, I'm going to be in second and short. Anything I want to do. Now it's, okay, what are my second and long plays? And nobody's good that way. But I think especially this team in their kind of conventional, regular way we want to run our offense, they're especially not as good relative to their opponents. What's masked all of that is the fact that Jaden Daniels is incredible. And that's not the design. The design isn't to say, hey, have a bunch of things break down and you go make plays on 4th and 11. You run for 29 on 3rd and 11 when we're way behind the sticks. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. You can get away with it sometimes, but now playoff time, when everything's a little bit tighter, you can't count on that down in and down out.
So Washington in the last 6 games that they played got sacked 4 or more times. How many times do you think out of those 6 games?
3, 4?
4. So they had, over the last 6 games, 4 sacks at the hands of the Cowboys, 2 against the Titans in that game, as you said, the outlier where they dominated and were great. 8 sacks at the hands of the Saints. They gave up just 1 to Philly, 5 sacks to the Falcons, 6 sacks to the Cowboys. So 3 of their last 4, 4 of their last 6, 4 or more sacks. Over their first 11 games this season, how many times do you think Jaden Daniels was sacked 4 or more times?
2.
Total. 5 sacks against the Giants, 4 sacks. Actually, no, 1.
Just the Giants game?
I'll take it back. Only the Giants game in their first 11 games of the season. Something's not right.
Something ain't going right, yeah.
I do believe that the health along the offensive line is a major factor. Probably if we're doing a blame pie, the biggest piece of that pie. If you're cutting the pizza, you get the biggest slice for some type of either Cornelius Lucas, Tyler Biotish, Brandon Coleman, who's been banged up. The fact that Allegretti, at one point midseason, less late, was on and off the field with a little issue. I just think that has added up, no doubt in my mind. I also think, though, some of this is what is being done defensively in the second half of the season against the offense. They get their short passing game, their quick game going, that hot passing game they like to the perimeter. So maybe they're seeing a little more man. Maybe teams are squatting a little more in the flat. Maybe teams are trying to play the screens a little differently. So you don't have the quick outlet and the I don't even grab the laces. I'm just slinging the ball out to the edges. But I think you've seen, based on that, Daniels have to hold the ball a little longer. I'm going to look this up tonight. I haven't had a chance to, but I'll bet you his time to throw has gone up over the last several weeks compared to the early part of the season when we heaped praise on Cliff every single week for getting the ball out of the kid's hands. Because remember, one of the big storylines for people that were concerned about some of the college stuff with Jaden Daniels was like, the overused pressure to sack percentage phrase that everyone got mad at, or some of these things where it was not a problem for so much this year. But you go back to the New Orleans game, it reared its head in that game with those 8 sacks. I thought the Dallas game, one of the 6 sacks was just he ran out of bounds for a loss of 1 where he should have thrown it away. You remember that play?
I do, yes.
It was very weird, by the way. Just throw the ball out of bounds. What are you doing? He kept it, ran out of bounds, took a sack. O-linemen hate that, but whatever. And then there was another play where, like, the center got beat clear as
instantly.
Day. Biotich's replacement, Michael Dieter, just going one-on-one with Micah Parsons. He's better than you. I'm sorry. That's going to happen sometimes. That's football. So I'm not sitting here pretending like it was just a Jaden Daniels problem. In fact, I know it isn't that, but it might be a small factor. And it really doesn't matter why or how. Our job is to try to answer those questions as best we can. What matters is they're not getting the ball out as fast, and the sacks are picking up. That's how drives end. That's how you start punting more. That's how you get knocked out of field goal range. And Daniels has been amazing at avoiding these, but that's how, if there's enough of them, you turn the football over.
And so even if it's not a sack, it's now a holding penalty to prevent the sack. It's you've got to call certain things knowing that you're in danger, which takes away certain route combinations. Well, one fewer receiver out in the route because the running back's got to stay in a chip or the tight end does, et cetera. It changes things, right? At one point, you're dictating to the defense. Now you're in second and third and long a lot. They're dictating to you. And I think that's kind of been the biggest change. Not having a bona fide second receiver that's a scary weapon opposite Terry McLaurin, I think has been an underrated factor in all that. I think they're easier to defend in those kind of third and long situations where you can't go man against Philadelphia. Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown's going to kill you. You can go man with an eye towards Terry McLaurin with some bracket there. I'll take my chances, right? You saw that Atlanta game. When Washington has the ball, they go 3 and out in that last minute, giving Atlanta a chance to come down, kick a field goal. Thank goodness Raheem Morris hates clock management. But on 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, whatever it was, it's Olamide Zaccheaus going one-on-one in the middle. With all due respect, that's not where I want to be in crunch time, right? I'd like him as more my gimmick / player, the occasional slot running an end around or flip him something underneath and let him run an option choice route, something like that. That's not, you shouldn't be in the business of going 3rd and long to that guy, but that's where they're kind of stuck. That's where they're left. So it's put so much on Daniels' plate, and to his credit, because he's amazing, he's risen to that challenge and kind of picked him up by the bootstraps and said, "We ain't losing, follow me." But again, we're going to the postseason now, a little bit less sustainable when you talk about it, the haul of a regular season and even long term. But we're not talking about the offseason yet. There's no new player walking through that door that's going to fix it. This really is about, if they get that offensive line healthy, that to me is the biggest domino to fall for those guys to be able to do some of the stuff that they were doing earlier.
My other theory, too, on this is based on the Cowboys game. They had sacks on the first 2 dropbacks and 3 of the first 9 plays this week. Mm-hmm. To me, it felt like they knew something or they saw something that they were going to take advantage of. Like, to come out of the gates like that, it felt like you're jumping on a pitcher's
There's a tell,
or something, like the first 2 plays, they drew up little games up front or blitzes that got home. Like Jaden was just under duress.
Well, remember Atlanta that for the entirety of the first half was running that one blitz. They got one linebacker that is a great pass rusher. So they faked him blitzing, all the protection slides to that side, and then the other guy would come. And they couldn't handle it for an entire half of football. So yeah, I do think there's a tell or something that's going on where, because everybody's got all the film that you could want at this point, right?
I mean, make sense though. 4 sack games allowed, 1 out of your first 11 games and 4 out of the last 6. So that's my biggest concern. I like that Tampa doesn't really have edge rushers that scare me a whole lot, but Elijah Cansey can get home from the interior. That's Allen and Payne at their prime, basically. at D tackle. And Vita Vea is no treat to block either. Although
Yeah, he could do that truck lift if he feels like it.
he's more of a run stuff and smart car than he is maybe a pass rusher. But I'll tell you, if Daniels is moving around in the pocket, he can land on you. So I'm going pass protection. You're saying what?
I'll say run game, early down run game. Yeah.
What's got you the most nervous about how Washington's playing, and how do they fix it? Because they are a tweak or two away from being a real pain in the butt to play, and a team, frankly, if you're the Bucks, that you're worried about, that people don't want to see.